All Cars, a copyrighted program created by the Rio Grande Oil Company.
Los Angeles Police calling all cars, attention all cars, broadcast 142. Cover the district around Pasadena Avenue and Avenue 42 and pick up any suspicious person. That's all. Rolls and questions.
Are you confused by all this talk about gasolines, all claiming superiority? Then listen to this frank letter from a stranger in our midst. He writes,
As a newcomer from the East, I've been frankly bewildered by the many conflicting claims advertised for the leading brands of gasoline in the West. When I heard Rio Grande's broadcast saying more police, fire, and emergency cars are powered by Rio Grande Cracked wherever it is sold than any other brand, I decided that it was the first really convincing statement I'd heard about any gasoline. I know you couldn't make this statement unless it were absolutely true. And it's obvious that police and emergency cars depend more upon gasoline than pleasure cars. So, I figured if these big buyers, to whom gasoline is all important, prefer Rio Grande Cracked above all others, it's the logical gasoline for me, too. I'm convinced that I'm now using the best gasoline money can buy.
Signed, Mr. Matt M. Hammond, 764 South Normandy, Los Angeles. This same reasoning induces thousands of motorists every month to drive into a Rio Grande station and ask for Cracked, the same gasoline the police cars use. They have discovered that Rio Grande Cracked lives up to its guarantee of police car performance in your pleasure car. And now it is our pleasure once more to present Chief James E. Davis of the Los Angeles Police Department. Chief Davis.
Good evening, friends, and boys at the police camp at Valyermo. The policeman is a public servant. When he takes his oath of office, he promises to enforce the laws which the people make. The ideal police force does just this, enforces the law, keeps the peace, sees that the machinery of society functions smoothly and with least friction. The ideal police force does not meddle in politics, does not concern itself with the social opinions of the public, does not interfere in any way with the affairs of the public, so long as the public keeps its peace. It is my constant effort and ambition to attain this ideal. The case you are about to hear tonight deals with an officer who might be called an ideal officer. Using intelligence, his own God-given initiative, he solved a brutal crime and brought the criminal to justice. His reward, of which you will hear later, is typical of the recognition any man under my command may expect for showing the same qualities.
It is a few days before Christmas in 1913. In Thurston's drugstore on Pasadena Avenue in Los Angeles, young Harold Ziegler is showing Mr. Thurston his new flashlight as Mrs. Thurston goes to answer the phone.
Isn't it a dandy, Mr. Thurston?
It sure is, Harold.
My dad bought it for me.
Ought to have waited until Christmas, oughtn't he, Harold?
Well, you see, my birthday comes on Christmas Day, so Dad sort of figured I ought to have this as a birthday present ahead of time.
Well, that's mighty thoughtful of him. You're liable to lose out with only one set of presents for both days.
Yeah, and then Bill White, the motor cop's been telling me that I ought to have a flashlight when I make deliveries at night.
He's right, Harold. It isn't safe to ride a bicycle around at night the way these fools run their automobiles nowadays. 30 miles an hour down Pasadena Avenue. Wonder they don't break their necks.
Oh, Ed.
Yeah?
Party up on Avenue 42 wants some citrate of magnesia. They said to send along change for $20. They want it in a hurry.
All right, I'll get the magnesia. You get the change for Harold.
Gee, that's swell. Now I can use my new light.
Well, you be careful with this money now, Harold.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'd send Robert, only he's home for supper.
Don't you worry about me, ma'am. I can take care of it just as well as Robert can, even if I am 2 years younger than him.
Well, we'll see. Here's $19.50. The citrate'll be $half $1. Take their $20 and give them this money and the citrus and come right back.
Gee, Mrs. Thurston, I know how to make change.
All right, Harold, here's the citrate. You better get started.
Yes, sir.
And don't forget to use that new light of yours.
Don't worry, I won't.
I wonder what's keeping Harold, Ed. He's been gone over an hour now.
I don't know. He ought to have been back in 15 minutes.
Do you think he might have been run over by an automobile?
Less chance of that than ever before. He had that new flashlight tonight.
But it's such an ugly night, raining and all.
I'm going up that way and look for him. What was that address?
727 Avenue 42.
East or west?
West.
Well, I'll be back shortly.
Running into a friend outside the store, Mr. Thurston enlists him in the hunt for the missing messenger. Quietly, they walk several blocks through the drizzling rain until...
Ow! Oh!
What's the matter?
Oh, consarn these bloomin' kids that leave their bicycles on the sidewalk. I'd like to catch that young imp. I'd wring his
Wait
neck.
a minute, wait. This is Harold's bicycle.
What?
And he's the last kid in the world who'd leave his precious wheel out in the street in the rain. There's something mighty funny about all this.
Say, look across the sidewalk there.
What is it?
Wait a minute. I'll see what it is. What? It's a club. A wooden club.
Great Scott, there's blood on it. Something's happened to Harold.
Listen, Ed. You look down that way, and I'll go this way. See if we can find anything else.
All right, call out for him.
Here.
Harold! Harold! Harold!
Where are you, boy?
Harold!
Harold!
Here's his flashlight.
What?
Down here in this ravine.
Well, he must be around here somewhere.
Oh, wait until I get this thing turned on. There. Oh, look. He's still breathing. Hurry across the street to that house and call an ambulance. I'll do what I can for him until it gets here. Well, Bill, it doesn't look like there's much business for a cop tonight.
No, raining too hard for the second story man, I guess.
What did they think about you hanging around this pot-bellied stove up here at Lincoln Heights?
It's okay with the sergeant. Thanks to you, I've got a police substation right here in your hardware store.
And I got police protection. Well, it's fair enough. Someone wants a pound of nails, I bet. Hello? Yeah. Just a minute. It's for you, Bill. Sounds like the sergeant.
Oh, thanks. Hello? Yeah? Yeah. Okay, I'll get up there right away.
Crime on a night like this?
Looks like murder. See you later.
Patrolman Bill White arrives at the scene of the crime a few moments after the ambulance has removed Harold Ziegler. He is met by Officer Harry Glaze.
Sergeant sent me over, Glaze.
Good. This is a tough one.
Let's have it.
Someone beat up Harold Ziegler.
You mean Ed Thurston's delivery boy?
Yeah.
Poor kid. I knew him well. Hurt bad?
Ed beaten in badly. They don't expect him to live.
Oh, what a dirty shame. Got any leads?
Nothing that's worth anything. Come along, I'll show you all there is. There's his bicycle over there. And here's the weapon.
Small end of an axe handle.
Yeah.
Hey, wait a minute. Throw your flash over here.
Huh?
Uh-huh.
What is it?
Jelly beans scattered all over the place. Harold loved them. Well, what else?
Apparently he was dragged down here into this ravine. This is where they found the body.
Now, wait a minute. Throw your flash around here. Nice footprints.
Probably belong to the ambulance driver.
One of them must belong to the attacker. Has homicide been notified?
Yes. They're on their way out.
Well, when they get here, see they don't disturb those footprints. I've got a hunch I can find a fellow whose shoes fit some of those prints. And if I get him, I want to be able to make a comparison.
You mean you've got this case solved already?
No, not yet. But I've got a strong suspicion, and I don't want those big flat feet from headquarters ruining these prints.
But the homicide boys are assigned to the case.
I know, but this happened on my beat. And I know the ins and outs of this neighborhood better than the headquarters boys. And I knew Harold Ziegler. I want to crack this case my way. I may need your help. How about it?
I'm with you, Bill.
Okay. Guard those footprints, and don't say anything about my hunch. I'm going down to the hospital to see if I can get anything out of Harold. The poor kid's still alive.
Good evening, Officer White.
Oh, hello, Edith. You got that Ziegler kid in here, the one that was beaten up?
Yes.
I'd like to ask him some questions, if I may.
You can go back, but I doubt if you can find out anything. The boy's unconscious. His mother and father are there with him.
Good evening, Doctor. Good evening. May I talk to the boy?
Yes, but I don't think he can hear you. He's very low.
Harold. It's Bill White, the motor cop. Harold, who hit you? Harold, I've got to know who did it. Can't you hear me, Harold? Harold, can't you tell me? Just tell me his name.
It's no use, officer. He's dead.
And later that night, Patrolman Bill White unfolds his theory to Officer Glaze and Mr. Thurston in the back room of Thurston's drugstore.
Now, here's the hunch I want you to help me on, Glaze. Shoot. Remember about a year ago, a Japanese gardener was beaten up and robbed over in Herman?
Yes?
Well, that Japanese was beaten the same way that Harold was. Same kind of a club. And for the same motive, robbery.
I still don't see how that proves the same person did it, Bill.
Well, Mr. Thurston, that's a principle we use in police work. We found out that the modus operandi, or method of committing a crime, is a trademark of any particular criminal. He always goes about his dirty work in the same way. But my conviction is deeper than merely superficial similarities. I worked on that Japanese case.
Oh, you did?
Yes, sir. And I found out that it was pulled by 3 young thugs. One of them was a 20-year-old good-for-nothing who lives over in Herman. His name's Walter Smith. The second was Red Thomas, aged 18. And the third, the one who swung the club on the Japanese, well, I couldn't get a line on him for a long time. Then I got a tip from a butcher over on Avenue 57 that he was reasonably certain that a 17-year-old kid by the name of Louis Bundy, who was driving his meat wagon, had conked the Japanese. I started to check up on this Bundy kid, and I finally got him on a robbery of a delivery station for a downtown department store.
You mean that Villa de Paris job?
That's right. He pleaded guilty. But some social workers had him put on probation. So he went scot-free with a grudge against me. Now, I know about every kid in this district, and though some of them get into jams occasionally, there are only 3 who are thoroughly vicious hoodlums, and they're Smith, Thomas, and Bundy. This job tonight was the work of someone familiar with the neighborhood. Whoever did it knew your organization, Mr. Thurston, and he knew the neighborhood well enough to give you the address of a vacant house for the delivery.
What?
Yeah, I checked on the address. That house has been vacant for 3 weeks.
But to commit murder for $19.50.
That's a lot of money to a 17-year-old boy.
Well, as far as that goes, I can't very well afford to lose it myself.
We'll get it back for you, Mr. Thurston. Is there anything that misses in my reconstruction of the case?
Nothing that I can see.
It checks all right.
Fine. We let homicide do whatever it likes, Glaze, and you and I will work on Bundy and his pals.
Early the next morning, Glaze and White returned to the scene of the crime equipped with plaster of Paris. The footprints are still intact in the rapidly drying mud, and the officers quickly make casts of all the impressions. The elimination of the prints begins. One pair belongs to Mr. Thurston, another to his companion of the preceding evening, another to the ambulance driver. At last, there remains but one pair of unidentified prints, the impression of a shoe with new cat's paw rubber heels. White and Glaze take these to the neighborhood cobbler at Pasadena Avenue and Avenue 43.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hello, Tony.
What's that you got in your hand?
That's a plaster cast of a shoe print.
I never see anything like that before.
Well, take a good look at it.
She's just like a white shoe, huh?
That's right, Tony. Now, look carefully. Is that your work? Did you mend this pair of shoes recently?
Hey, golly. This is my work. See these nail holes. Look at this hammer. She's uneven. What? Can you imagine that?
These look like new heels, Tony. Did you put them on?
Oh, I put on the heels.
Who did you do this for?
Well, let me think. Sure. I do it for that Bundy kid, Louis Bundy.
Louis Bundy? Well, what do you say, Glaze?
I say your hunches are great things.
Familiar with the habits of the boys who frequently go to Sycamore Grove to play tennis, Glaze and White park their motorcycles some distance from Sycamore Grove, and approaching it by a circuitous route, finally arrive at a point on the hill where they can watch the tennis courts without being seen. They remain secreted for half an hour before anyone appears. And then Bundy approaches the park from the railroad tracks. A little later, Red Thomas joins him, and shortly after, the Smith boy shows up. They sit in huddled conversation for several minutes while the officers watch.
What do you suppose the conference is about?
Probably planning some more devilment.
I wish we were close enough to hear what they're saying.
Yeah. Well, it's all over anyway. There goes Bundy to play tennis.
Now, what do we do?
We'll start on Thomas. Look, he's getting a ride on a bakery truck. That truck's next stop is Steiner's Grocery in Highland Park. I'm going to take my motorcycle and meet it when it gets there. You go back to Green's hardware store. I'll meet you there.
Well, as far as I go for a while, kid. This is fine. Thanks for the lift. Don't mention it.
Hello, Red.
Huh? Well, what do you want?
You.
What for?
Oh, I want to ask you a few questions.
What for? I ain't done nothing.
We'll see about that.
Well, I don't see what you...
Want to come along peaceful, or shall I put you under arrest?
Oh, all right.
Officer White takes Red Thomas back to Green's hardware. And there, locked in the basement, he questions him for a long time.
Now, Red, where were you yesterday afternoon and evening?
I've told you half a dozen times. I was down at the pool room all afternoon.
What time did you get home?
Oh, about 7 o'clock.
Where were you at 6:30?
I don't know. Probably still at the pool room or on my way home.
Weren't you with Louis Bundy?
No. Why?
What were you talking to Bundy and Walter Smith about this morning?
Oh, I don't know. Just talking.
Well, what were you talking about?
There ain't no law against talking to a couple of pals, is there?
No, but when the conversation is regarding a murder, then I want to know about it.
Murder? What murder?
You know very well what murder. The murder of Harold Ziegler last night. Now, I'm going to arrest you and Smith and Bundy for that little job.
Listen, White. I didn't have anything to do with that.
No? Well, how are you going to prove that?
I don't know, but it's God's own truth. I didn't have nothing to do with it. I swear it.
Who did it?
I can't squeal.
Well, you'd better. I found Louis Bundy's shoe prints at the scene of the crime, and I know he's in on it.
Well, maybe he is, but I'm not.
Start talking.
Oh, right. All right, I'll tell you what I know about it.
Go ahead.
Well, we was up to Sycamore Grove yesterday, and Bundy said he wished he knew how to get some money, and Smith suggested we write a phony check for $15 or $20 and get the butcher to send some meat, COD, to a vacant house somewhere, and then get the delivery boy to cash the phony check.
And you thought you could get away with that? Gee, you punks are dumb.
I knew we couldn't get away with it. I told them it was forgery, and I didn't want any part of it, so I beat it. I don't know what they did after that. When we met down at the Grove this morning, Smith and I both accused Bundy of killing that Ziegler kid, and he denied it. Oh, gosh, that's all I know.
And that's plenty.
Oh, will you let me go now?
And let you warn your pals? Not a chance. The only place I'll let you go is to jail.
A little while later, Walter Smith is arrested as he tries to make a getaway from his home. In the store basement, White questioned him. Here's the same story as he had heard from Red Thomas.
I swear to God I didn't have anything to do with Croak and Harold. When Red pointed out that Lewis's check plan was forgery, I backed out, too. I don't want to get mixed up on a penitentiary rap.
So you didn't have anything to do with that murder, eh?
No, sir. I didn't know anything about it until I read in this morning's paper about Harold being dead. That's why I went over to the Grove to see Bundy. He denied it, of course, but I've got a hunch he did it.
And so have I, my young informer.
Retaining the two youths in custody, White and Glaze start out after Louis Bundy. In a vacant house across the street from the Bundy home, they lie in wait for their prey. It is 11 o'clock in the evening before the circumstantially accused murderer comes home. From their hiding place, they see him bid his parents good night and retire to his bedroom. Then the two officers cross the street and ring the doorbell. Mrs. Bundy answers the door.
Yes?
We're police officers, ma'am. We want to talk to Louis.
Oh, what are you going to do with my boy now?
Just want to ask him a few questions.
But he's gone to bed.
Somebody raised a window in that other room, Bill.
Get in there fast.
Now, look here. You can't come to a person's house.
All right, Louis. Up with your hands.
Hey, what's the big idea?
That's what we want to know. These cuffs will keep you from opening any more windows.
Oh, what is it, Louis? What have you done now?
I don't know, Mom. I ain't done nothing.
Oh, Louis, why must you always be getting into trouble? I've tried so
Now,
hard.
Mrs. Bundy, if you'll just not get excited. I've got to ask your son some questions. Where were you last night, Louis?
Last night?
I don't know, around.
Around where?
Oh, down at the corner, hanging around.
Look at this, Bill. A shirt. It's been washed, but there's still some brown stains on it.
What are these stains, Lewis?
I don't know.
I'll bet you $5 they're blood.
Hey, you better not. You'd lose your money.
Where are the shoes Tony put new heels on last week?
Oh, those? Well, they wasn't no good, so I threw them away.
Where?
In the incinerator. I burned them.
Take a look for him out there, Glaze, while I escort Lewis to Lincoln Heights.
Now you got me here in jail. Maybe you'll tell me what you're arresting me for.
Gladly. The charge is murder.
Ah, you're kidding.
No, on the level, Lewis. You see, it's this way. Last night, about 6:30, you murdered Harold Zeigel. We know all about it.
Don't try to bluff me, copper.
I'm not. But apparently, I have to convince you. Last night, when you beat that poor kid's skull in, you left your heel prints in the mud. Today, Tony the cobbler identified those prints as having been made by the heels he put on your shoes. Then we picked up your two pals, Smith and Thomas, and they both talked plenty.
Yeah?
Yeah. Now, after I booked you, I'm going back to your house and turn it upside down until I find the $19.50 you stole from Harold. And the shoes you said you burned, but that Glaze couldn't find in the incinerator. And the blood-stained clothing. I've got a little hunch about them. I think you probably buried them in the cellar. I'm going to dig down there until I find them.
Listen, White. Do me a favor and don't do that.
Why not?
Well, just don't. I don't want my mother bothered no more. Hey, lay off that, and I'll tell you the whole story.
Well, let's have it.
Well, you promise not to bother my mother?
I'll try not to.
Well, you see, it's this way. I got a girl up in Ventura, see? Well, she's coming down to L.A. for the holiday, see? So I wanted to get her a Christmas present and show her a good time. Only I ain't got no coin, see? Well, Smith and Red backed out on me, so I figured I'd pull a job alone. I'm sorry old man Thurston sent Harold on that phony errand because I liked the kid. I hadn't planned to kill nobody, but there was nothing else I could do.
What do you mean?
Well, I met Harold near the hill at Mommy and Way, see? And I spoke to him, figuring he wouldn't be able to make me out in the dark. But he turned on his flashlight and he recognized me. And then I knew I'd have to kill him or he'd tell who took the money away from him. So I let him have it with the axe handle. He thought I wanted his flashlight because he kept telling me I could have it if I didn't beat him no more. But I kept on beating him until he didn't make no more noise. Then I took the money and I got away from there fast.
And you went home and buried the bloody pants and the shoes and the money in the cellar.
Not the money.
What happened to it?
Well, I dropped it while I was running away.
A nice story. A nice Christmas present for Harold's mother. Her son's corpse.
I couldn't help it. I had to kill him. It was him or me.
White returns to the Bundy home and starts digging in the cellar. He recovers the bloody coat and trousers, the bloody shoes, which match perfectly the plaster casts he had made at the murder scene. One thing he cannot find is the money, and Lewis stoutly maintains that he had dropped it while making his getaway. On Christmas Day, White, seeking to unravel this last shred of evidence, drops into Thurston's drugstore.
Hello, Bill.
Hello, Mr. Thurston.
How's the case coming along?
Fine, except for one thing.
What's that?
The money. Bundy claims he dropped it making his getaway. Now, I think he's lying, but I can't get a line on him. I wish I could return that to you for a Christmas present.
Well, to tell you the truth, so do I.
I got a plan. If you're willing to lend me the same amount of money.
What?
Just for a few hours. Sort of the old gypsy trick, making money produce more money.
Well, whatever you say.
Now, here's what I want you to do. Give me $19.50 in the same denominations you gave Harold that night, and put it in a purse as nearly like the one he had as you can find.
All right, but I don't understand what for.
Another hunch, Mr. Thurston. You'll find out soon enough.
Half an hour later, Officer White enters Bundy's cell in the city jail.
Merry Christmas, Lewis.
Yeah? I don't see nothing so merry about it.
Why, I think it's plenty merry. I've discovered what a liar you are, and as a result, I'm able to give a couple of old people some Christmas cheer.
What are you talking about?
This purse with the $19.50 in it. The Thurstons need that money, and I'm going to return it to them this afternoon.
Oh, so you found it then?
Yes, in spite of your constant lying. You didn't throw it away. You buried it in the cellar.
That's right, but you can't blame me for lying. I figured if you overlooked it, I could give the money to my folks later.
Yeah, your folks wouldn't want blood money.
No, I guess it's better you found it.
Sure it is. Now, look, Lewis. Drop those blues. How'd you like a turkey dinner and then a visit out home, eh?
Gee,
You mean it?
Sure I do.
By gosh, I believe you're a human being after all, White.
After a big Christmas dinner, Officer White takes Louis Bundy home and permits him to visit with his mother. Then he leads him down to the cellar.
Well, Louis, before we go back to jail, I'd like you to show me how you buried all that stuff. I found it all anyways, but I'd like to get your movements clear in my mind.
Sure.
Now, here's your shovel.
Well, after I got home, I stripped out of my coat and pants and shoes and brought them down here. I dug a hole right here. And I buried the clothes and the shoes, and then I covered over the hole. And then I went over here under the steps, and I dug another hole to bury the money in. Say, what is this?
What I've been looking for, Louis. Thurston's money.
And that purse you showed me down at the jail.
The decoy. Thanks for showing me where the money was, Louis.
Why, you dirty, low-down, double-crossing...
Officer Bill White thus was able to return to the Thurstons the stolen money as well as the decoy that same Christmas Day. Chief Sebastian recognizes the excellent single-handed job of police work done by White, promoted him to a lieutenancy in the detective force, a position which he held for 16 years until his retirement. Louis Bundy, who brutally took the life of a fellow man, was hanged at San Quentin, and his two pals, having assisted the investigation and convinced the authorities of their innocence, were released.
Thank you, Chief Davis. Ladies and gentlemen, would you like to know how we write and rehearse these Calling All Cars broadcasts? You will find the full illustrated story in the latest issue of the Calling All Cars News, now being given away to everyone who asks everywhere Rio Grande cracked gasoline is sold. True detective stories in every issue, telling how cases were solved by the police departments who use Rio Grande cracked gasoline. We invite you to use the same gasoline that has been selected above all others, everywhere it is sold, to power more police, fire, and emergency cars than any other brand. Every boy and girl is interested in detective work. And at no cost to you, you can give some fortunate youngster a complete detective outfit of 14 valuable free gifts. Easterners will be glad to know that all Rio Grande dealers carry Sinclair motor oils. Throughout the East and Middle West, Sinclair motor oils are widely known as the oil that's mellowed millions of years. You've seen pictures of the giant Sinclair dinosaurs that symbolize the age of Sinclair motor oils. Now, these famous oils are available throughout the Pacific Coast and Far West, distributed by the Rio Grande Oil Company through thousands of independent dealers. We guarantee that you can't buy better motor oils at any price than Sinclair. And your Rio Grande dealer will tell you the scientifically exact grade to use for your car.
Los Angeles Police calling all cars. Attention all cars to cancellation broadcast 142. Suspect in this case now in custody. That's all. Rosenquist.
This is your narrator, Frederick Lindsley, bidding you good night for the Rio Grande Oil Company. Calling All Cars, a copyrighted program created by the Rio Grande Oil Company.
Los Angeles Police calling all cars. Attention all cars. Broadcast 143. Investigate a man dragging a body down Franklin Avenue. That's all. Rosenquist.
Everybody wonders why, year after year, Rio Grande continues to get so many contracts from cities and counties throughout the West, specifying Rio Grande cracked gasoline with tetraethyl to power more police and emergency cars than any other brand. The secret of Rio Grande's success lies in a refining process, which is protected by patent. The Sinclair cracking process, which is used exclusively by Rio Grande in the Pacific Coast market. Rio Grande's outstanding success with cracked gasoline has led many other companies to install cracking plants, but none of these are as efficient as the patented Rio Grande Sinclair process. Millions of dollars have been invested by Rio Grande in complicated pressure stills that chew up gasoline so it will start quicker in your engine, accelerate faster, and turn into power without waste. All lazy, slow-burning units are extracted. Naturally, it costs Rio Grande more per gallon to process cracked gasoline, but the cost to you is no more, and Rio Grande is rewarded for this extra expense by its growing sales of cracked gasoline, which have outstripped all competition. You have been impressed, like hundreds of thousands of other motorists, by the undeniable fact that Rio Grande cracked gasoline is preferred above all others by the fastest, most powerful cars on the road. Police cars, fire engines, ambulances. When are you going to find out for yourself what a tremendous difference this super-refined gasoline will make in the performance of your car? Rio Grande cracked gasoline offers you police car performance in your own car at no extra cost. And now it is our pleasure to present Chief James E. Davis of the Los Angeles Police Department. Chief Davis.
Good evening, friends. The job of being a policeman is a discouraging one. We, whose duty it is to enforce the law, see all too much of the violation of laws, both man-made and natural laws. Sometimes we despair of the human animal, so prone is he to make mistakes, and having made them, continue to do so. It is a difficult task to apply the legal yardstick to cases where natural laws are violated. An example is the case you are about to hear. The murderer was maladjusted to life. The damage had been done to his personality long before he committed his crime. Called in, as we were to investigate, and in a sense, as is always the case, to sit in judgment upon this fellow man, we could not help realize that he was paying not for the crime of murder, but for deep-rooted maladaptations in his personality, beginning perhaps in babyhood. If so much of the sentimentality and false values, false propaganda and prudishness, which goes into our social training could be swept away, if we could be trained from infancy to think instead of to feel, then indeed would crime drop to a historical low level. Then indeed would crimes of passion, of the nature you will soon hear, disappear completely.
It is a blustery March evening in 1930. In a bungalow court apartment in Hollywood, two couples are seated around a card table before a blazing fire.
And that gives us game and rubber. Not much luck for the visiting fireman tonight.
Well, you can't win all the time, you know.
Well, I really think we must be going. It must be past 10 o'clock. Oh, come on. Let's play another rubber.
Sure, Edith. Give me a chance to show this card shark I know some tricks.
Yeah? Well, all right, but I know you, Harry. You never want to stop.
That's right. Except when I'm winning.
It's your deal, Jimmy.
All right. How would you like it? 4 aces apiece?
No, just give me the 4 aces.
Harry. Jimmy, look.
What's the matter?
There in the doorway of the kitchen. A man.
What?
I beg your pardon. May I see you for a minute?
Well, sure. You girls partners? You better come with me, Harry.
Okay.
Oh, don't, Jimmy. He looks dangerous, like a living ghost.
Don't be silly, honey. He's probably drunk. Come on into the kitchen here. Now, what is it?
I need help. There's a woman.
Woman? Where? What's the matter?
She's sick.
Where is she?
Next door. You gotta help me.
Well, all right. Lead the way.
In here. In the living room. She's in the living room.
Oh, she looks like she's asleep.
Yeah. But she's sick. You've got to help me. Help me get her up on the floor.
Okay. Harry, you take her head. I'll take her feet.
Okay.
You ready?
Hey, wait a minute. She's cold. Hey, look, Jimmy. Her arms are stiff.
I saw her legs. Spots on her dress. Wet. Sticky. They're blood.
Jimmy, this woman isn't sick. She's dead.
Come on, we better call the police. Yes, that's right. On Franklin, about a block from Sierra Bonita. Yes, we'll be outside waiting for you.
Oh, Jimmy, are you sure she's dead?
There's no question about it.
Oh, how awful. And that stranger, where's he?
Golly, we forgot all about him.
Oh, I'll bet that's him making a getaway. Look out the window, Edith.
Yes, there he goes in a Ford coupe, driving like mad.
Oh, gee, we probably should have made him wait until the police get here.
Well, it's too late now. Come on, we better go outside and wait for them.
You girls had better stay here. It isn't such a pretty sight in there.
Oh, but Jimmy,
You don't want to get into this thing mixed up as a witness and all, do you? Just stay in here. Come on, Harry.
Gee, I never handled a dead body before. Did you, Jimmy?
No.
Sort of gives you the creeps, doesn't it?
Sort of, yeah. Let's take a look in there again.
No, I don't want to go near her.
I can see her through the window. Streetlight makes her look like she was sleeping.
But she isn't. Come on, let's get out to the sidewalk and wait for the cops.
This is a place, officer.
Now, what's the trouble?
There's a dead woman in the bungalow back there.
Okay, lead the way. Come on, Page. Who is the woman?
I haven't any idea. I live next door to the bungalow, and Mr. King here and his wife and my wife were playing bridge when a man came in our back door and asked us to help him with a woman who was sick.
Huh?
We tried to lift her off the floor where she was lying. We found she was cold and stiff. There was bloodstains on her dress.
Where's the man?
He drove away.
Why didn't you hold him here?
Well, we were so excited and in such a hurry to call you, we forgot all about him. Here's the place. The side door here is open. Go right on through. She's in the living room.
In here?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't see anything.
There's a light switch right by the door.
Well, where's your dead woman?
Harry, she's gone.
Gone? Say, what is this? Some sort of practical joke?
If it is, you two birds can laugh it off in jail.
Oh, no, officer. I swear there was a dead woman laying in there not 10 minutes ago.
Maybe somebody dragged her into another room.
I'll look in the bedroom. You look in the kitchen, Harry.
All right.
She isn't in here.
Nothing out here either.
Nothing in the bathroom. I can't understand it.
How much you boys had to drink tonight, huh?
Not a drop.
I don't know where she's gone, but I know she was lying right there in the middle of the floor 10 minutes ago.
And she got tired waiting for us to take her to the morgue, so she grew wings and flew away to heaven by herself, I suppose.
Now, listen. You guys have got to believe us. We saw a corpse here. We tried to lift her. She was cold and stiff. I touched some wet spots on her dress and there were blood. Look, here's a stain right here on my finger. Look at it. Feel it. It's blood.
Okay, so it's blood. But where's the body it came from? That's what I want to know.
So do I. First, the guy that looks like a ghost comes into the house, and then we handle the corpse, and then the corpse and the ghost both disappear. It just ain't natural.
I thought at first you guys were just drunk, but it looks now as if you were plain nuts.
Mr. Thompson!
Ah, here's your corpse. Come back to life.
It's Mrs. Scott, the landlady. Yes, Mrs. Scott, I'm in here.
Oh, Mr. Thompson, thanks heaven you're still up. Come quick.
What's the matter?
Well, out here in front. There's a crazy man dragging a woman down the street by her heels.
Uh-oh.
The woman's hurt. She's bleeding.
See, what'd I tell you? Who's crazy?
I don't know. Maybe I am. Come on.
Hey, there he is.
Hey, you! Drop that. Now, what's the big idea?
Huh?
Shake him down. Put the cuffs on him, Page. I want to look at this woman.
Right.
She's dead, all right.
Where?
Been dead for several hours.
What are you putting those on?
Stiff as a board.
Yeah. Our pal here had this on his hip.
38. Break it open.
Loaded. No shells fired.
What's your name, buddy? Who's this girl? What'd you kill her for?
Well, huh? I didn't kill her. I didn't kill her. I didn't kill her.
Any of you people know this man?
I never saw him before tonight.
Neither did I.
He rented that bungalow for me this afternoon, officer.
He did? What did he say his name was?
Mr. Burns. He gave me a $40 check to cover the rent. It was signed C.L. Burns.
Know anything else about him?
Well, after he rented the place, he left. But he came back about 5:30 with this girl here. He introduced me to her as his wife, and I noticed at the time that she seemed surprised when he said that. They stayed in the bungalow until about 7:30, and then they drove away. I didn't see them again until just now when I saw them this way.
How about that, buddy? Is your name Burns?
Hey, there's a Ford coupe parked over there. Is that your car?
Huh? Yeah.
Let's all go over and take a look at it.
Check that registration page.
That's what I'm going to do. Lend me your flash, will you?
Yeah.
Thanks. It's registered to a dealer in Figueroa. There's a pencil notation here.
What's that say?
Sold March 23rd to Charles Thomas.
So you just bought the car yesterday, huh? Is your name Charles Thomas? Or is it C.L. Burns? Oh, I'm going to book this baby on suspicion of murder. I'll send the morgue wagon out and a couple of boys to impound the car. You stick here until they come, will you, Paige?
Right.
And you better throw a sheet over that corpse until the wagon gets here. She ain't as pretty as she once was.
Captain James Bean of Central Homicide assigns Lieutenants Leroy Sanderson and Aldo Corsini to the case. After a conference with Dwight and Page, the Hollywood Division detectives, they interview Burkhart and then report back to the captain.
We can't get this guy to say a thing, Captain. He won't affirm or deny anything. He just won't talk.
He's a strange one, there's no doubt of that.
But we got one lead.
What's that?
We found a telephone number in the dead girl's purse. According to the phone company, the number is assigned to a Sally Martin, who lives on New Hampshire.
Better check on it right away.
Awful late at night to wake up people, Captain.
I know. We've got to get to the bottom of this as soon as possible. Go ahead and rout her out of bed.
Yes, sir. Why, this dame is sure a heavy sleeper.
Yeah, if she's home.
She ought to be home at 3 a.m.
Here comes someone now.
Who is it?
Police, ma'am. We want to talk to you.
What do you want to talk to me about?
We're trying to get an identification. We need your help.
Well, I don't see what you have to wake up people in the middle of the night for. I've got to be on the set early in the morning.
We're very sorry, ma'am, but this is important.
Well, what is it?
Your telephone number is Normandy 7258.
That's right.
And your name's Sally Martin.
Yes. What is this all about?
There was a woman murdered out in Hollywood last night. We're trying to identify her. We found a slip of paper in her purse with Normandy 7258 written on it. The only clue we have. You remember giving your telephone number to any young women recently?
Why, no. I can't imagine who it would be.
You know a Mrs. Burns?
No.
Or a Mrs. Thomas?
No. Of course, I've got lots of girlfriends who might have my number, but I don't know anyone by either of those names.
We have reasons to believe those names are false. But we must get an identification so we can go ahead with the case. Now, I wonder if you'd come over to the morgue with us and look at the body.
When, now?
Yes, now.
Well, of all... Going to the morgue at 3 o'clock in the morning.
It's terribly important, Miss Martin.
Oh, very well, then. You wait here until I get some clothes on.
Here's the slab. Here. Pull down the sheet, will you, Corsini? Well, Miss Martin?
Oh, my...
You know her?
She was one of my best friends. God, who killed her?
That's what we're trying to find out. But you haven't told us yet who she is.
Her name's Anne McKnight. Oh, Lord, Carol.
You control yourself.
We'd better go in the office for the rest of this, Sam.
Yes, come along, Miss Martin. This way. Now, here, Miss Martin. Sit down here.
Here's a glass of water, Miss Martin.
Thank you.
Now, will you please tell us what you know about Anne McKnight?
I first met her on the Broadway Melody set. She was a dancer and a bit player. But there haven't been many calls in the past few months, and she got a job in a drugstore at Santa Monica and Western Avenue.
Was she married?
She had been married and divorced. She was married to a fellow by the name of Burkhart. They didn't get along very well. He was awfully jealous. He used her.
What else do you know?
That bottle.
Well, it's enough to put the bee on our suspect. So your name isn't Burns and it isn't Thomas. It's Burkhart.
That's quick work, pal. Yes, my name's Burkhart. William Burkhart.
And the woman you killed was your former wife, Ann McKnight. Isn't that right?
Oh, no. That's where you're wrong. You can't pin Ann's murder on me. I didn't do it, and you can't prove that I did.
Well, if you didn't do it, who did?
Well, I'll tell you all about it. Ann and I went out riding yesterday, and there was another fellow went with us.
What was his name?
Charlie Hunter. He used to be a boyfriend of Ann's.
Where does he live?
I don't know.
Well, go ahead. So the three of you went riding.
Yeah. And I stopped to get some cigarettes. When I came back, Ann was sick. The other fellow had gone. I took her back to the bungalow. I thought she was sick. I didn't know she was dead until you told me.
Oh, come on now, Burkhart. That's a pretty flimsy story. Why, anyone could see the girl had been shot. There was blood all over her.
I tell you, that's the way it happened, and that's what I thought.
Yeah?
That's my story, and you'll have one swell time proving anything else.
But we will prove something else, Burkhart. We'll prove you murdered her, and we'll hang you for it.
Having established the identity of the victim and a strong suspicion of the slayer, Corsini and Sanderson begin the complicated job of spinning a noose around Burkhart's head. Their first call is at the office of Dr. A.F. Wagner, Los Angeles County autopsy surgeon.
Well, Doc, what's the verdict on that girl they brought in from Hollywood last night?
She'd been shot 5 times, once over the heart, once in the left side, and 3 times in the back. I extracted 1 bullet. The others had gone through the body completely.
And that smart guy tried to tell us he thought she was sick.
The only sickness that poor girl had was lead poisoning. Otherwise, she was a perfectly healthy specimen.
Have you got the bullet you took out of her?
Here it is.
Thanks. We'll need it. Come on, Corsini. Let's take a look at Burkhart's car.
For the love of... Will you look at those blood stains?
All over the cushions.
Hey, look. Here on the floor are 2 slugs. They're flat from hitting the metal of the car.
And here 2 more in the upholstery. This door here.
Apparently, he shot her twice, and then as she tried to get out of the car, he emptied the rest of the gun into her back.
Yeah, we got to be sure. Come on. We'll take these slugs into Spencer Marksley and find out if they were fired from the gun the boys took off Burkhart last night.
I fired a round of test shots from the gun you brought in and then compared them with the bullets found in the murder car and in the victim's body.
And what did you find?
There's no question. All 10 bullets were fired from the .38 you took from the suspect.
Look, Corsini, you could follow the blood marks from the sidewalk all the way to the bungalow here. One trail goes in and another comes out.
Plenty lazy, that guy. He didn't even try to carry her. He just dragged the body.
He shot her in the car, dragged her into the house, and then, when the neighbors called us, he got scared and dragged her out again.
Well, we've reconstructed the crime pretty good. Now we'd better start backtracking on his movements before he murdered her.
Well, yes, I saw him park outside the store a little before 4:30. I didn't know who he was until I saw Ann leave. She gets off at 4:30. And as soon as she walked out of the store, this fellow jumped out of the car and walked over to her. And they talked for a few minutes, and I remember thinking what a good-looking date Ann had. Then she got into the car, and this fellow came in and bought 2 bottles of wine tonic from me, and I thought, oh, boy, I'll bet they're going to have a party. And then he went out and got in the car, and they drove off.
Well, Burkhart, are you ready to come clean?
What do you mean, come clean? I've told you the truth.
You've lied all the way through.
Well, prove it.
Sure, we'll prove it. And we'll prove that you murdered your ex-wife.
You got a job on your hands.
We're only trying to be honest with you, Burkhart. It's too bad you won't do yourself a favor and come clean with us.
Nuts. What do you want me to do, break down and cry?
Well, just to show you how honest we want to be with you, I'll tell you everything we know about you. Maybe you'll realize that we're not going to have such a hard time hanging you as you think. Of course, you might get off with life if you cooperate with us.
I'll never go to trial. I'm innocent.
Yeah? Well, listen to this. On Sunday, you bought a Ford Coupe on South Figueroa Street. You made a down payment of the check for $150, signed Charles Thomas. Before we begin talking about murder, you might recall that the California Penal Code provides a long rest in San Quentin for passing bad checks. But to go on, you didn't sleep at all Sunday night. Now, it may have been something yet. Or you may have been planning murder. So we let that pass as an uncertain point. You quit your job, drew your pay Monday noon, rented the apartment Monday afternoon. At 4:30, you met your ex-wife when she got off work. You persuaded her to take a ride with you. After buying 2 bottles of wine tonic, you drove off, arriving at the bungalow court at 5:30. 2 hours later, you drove to some unknown spot, emptied your gun into your ex-wife's body, and returned to the court, where you dragged the body into the house. Then you got scared, so you called in the neighbors. They went for the police, and you completely lost your head. So you dragged her body out of the apartment, down the street where you were found. How am I doing, Burkhart?
Not so well. That's the way you dicks reconstructed crime. No wonder there's so many unsolved cases.
You know, Burkhart, it would give me great pleasure to smack you one right on the puss.
Yeah, but you won't. On account of the policeman, your friend.
Okay, Corsini, hold on to that Latin temper of yours. Well, how about it, Burkhart? What's the matter with my story?
Plenty.
Well, let's hear yours.
Ann and I split up in the first place on account of our relatives. We loved each other. She promised me that she'd come back to me if I got a bungalow where we could live alone and I got an automobile. So I did. On Monday, I met Ann and we started for the bungalow, but we ran into this Charlie Hunter. He rode with us a little ways and then got out. We went to the bungalow and Ann got a little sore at me because I was drinking wine tonic to celebrate us getting together again. But I patched that up, and we went out at 7:30, and we ran into this Hunter again.
Yeah, quite a coincidence.
Yeah. Then, like I told you before, I stopped for some cigarettes, and when I came back, Hunter had gone, and Ann was sick, so I took her back to the apartment, and I got frightened and called these people next door.
You mean you dragged her dead body back to the apartment?
Wrong there, Copper. You can't prove it.
Wait until you see the photographs of those bloody tracks.
If Ann was shot, Charlie Hunter shot her.
Oh, don't be such an obstinate fool, Burkhart. Every bullet that came out of your wife's body and out of that car was fired from the gun we found on you.
You can't prove that.
We've been hanging men in ballistics testimony for years.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
What is your name, please?
Joy McKnight Hoskins.
You are related to the deceased.
She was my sister.
Mrs. Hoskins, will you tell the court in your own words what you know about the relations between your late sister and the defendant?
Well, Your Honor, they were married less than a year when Anne was forced to divorce him in 1929 because he was so cruel to her and because of his intense jealousy. He'd threatened her life if she didn't come back to him. Soon after they were divorced, she had him arrested for making these threats. He was put under a peace bond. But Anne told me often that she'd die before she'd ever live with him again. And that's just what she did.
Is there anything else, Mrs. Hoskins? Has the defendant ever said anything to you about his relationship with your sister?
Yes. I met him on the street several months ago. And he said, if I can't have Anne, nobody else will ever get her. I'll see to that.
Thank you, Mrs. Hoskins. Cross-examine. No questions. Very well. That's all, Mrs. Hoskins. Your Honor, at this time I would like to enter as People's Exhibit D this letter written by the defendant to the deceased.
It may be admitted.
And I would like to read just a paragraph of that letter. The defendant writes, "So you have been having a marvelous time with he-men, eh? I trust you have enjoyed yourself to the fullest degree. I guess I am not a he-man. I am jealous. Remember, I am still your husband. And remember that you repeated out to the minister, until death do us part." Now, the word death is written in capital letters and underlined in the exhibit. The letter continues, "I myself have formed a firm resolution adhering to that line. Do you understand me? If not, here it is in plain American. Over my dead body only, some other man can have you." I think this document answers the defendant's sneering challenge to find the motive for the crime with which he's charged. If ever there was a clearer threat, I have yet to see it.
I object, Your Honor. Counsel's attempting to sway the jury with personal opinion and argument.
Sustained. Strike counsel's remarks following the reading of the exhibit. Counsel will save his arguments for the summary.
I beg the court's pardon. But this case is such a brutal, such a horrible
example. Will also save his opinions for closing argument. Proceed.
The arguments of the defense that some other person killed Anne McKnight, or if Burkhart did do it, he was insane at the time, failed to convince the jury. All testimony having been given, the arguments having been heard, The jury quickly reach a verdict unprecedented in California legal history.
Will the clerk please read the verdict? We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder and recommend that he shall be hanged.
For the information of the jurors, the verdict of first-degree murder carries a mandatory death sentence. It is unnecessary to add a recommendation such as you have done, and indeed it is a usurpation of this court's powers that might be construed as contempt.
We just wanted to be sure there wouldn't be any hit show. We want to know that 30 people get hit.
And so it was. The jury wanted the proverbial eye for an eye. The 12 jurors, outraged at the crime of murder, wanted it doubly certain that justice would be meted out by the state upon the murderer. So it was done on January 29, 1932, when William Burkhart stepped through the trapdoor at San Quentin to eternity.
Thank you, Chief Davis. Ladies and gentlemen, every month, 500,000 people drive into Rio Grande cracked gasoline stations to get their free copy of the Calling All Cars news. We invite you, too, to read this unusual publication full of latest movie news, radio news, and illustrated true detective stories of the crimes you hear solved on these Calling All Cars programs. Even if you are not a regular user of Rio Grande cracked gasoline, you are a listener to this program, and we want you to have a free copy of the news every month. Drive in today or tomorrow. If you aren't in the market for Rio Grande cracked gasoline, you will certainly be interested in the outstanding motor oil value offered by all Rio Grande dealers. In refinery sealed cans, selling as low as 25 cents a quart, you can now get the famous Sinclair motor oil, the same oil that is used by the leading American railroads, by leading airplane lines, because it is de-waxed and de-jellied. All impurities are extracted from Sinclair motor oils to leave a concentrated, pure oil that is positively guaranteed not to break down, to give complete lubrication no matter how hot or cold the weather, to protect your engine even when you're going faster than ever before with speedier Rio Grande cracked gasoline. Frederick Lindsley bidding you good night. Calling All Cars, a copyrighted program created by the Rio Grande Oil Company.
Los Angeles Police calling all cars, attention all cars, attention all Los Angeles County Sheriff's cars, broadcast 144, regarding a murder in Mint Canyon. All Newhall substation cars be on the lookout for suspicious persons in your district. That's all. Rosenquist.
America deserts its homes to live in trailers on the open road. Once again, the country echoes to the rumble of the covered wagon. And from one of these modern gypsies comes a letter addressed to Calling All Cars.
6 months ago, I gave up the idea of getting a new car, bought a trailer instead, and gave up my home to live on wheels. Every day I'm on the road, a different town nearly every night. There was only one objection to my idyllic new life. My old car lacked the power to pull the heavy trailer when we came to hills, and the slightest grade reduced me to whirring along in second gear. I've tried every gasoline sold in the West. None made any difference until I tried Rio Grande Cracked. I don't understand this patented cracking process you advertise, but I'll gladly testify that Rio Grande Cracked gasoline has actually increased the power of my car. It hardly seems possible, but my trailer and I hit the hills on high now. Rio Grande Cracked gasoline has made all the difference in the world.
That letter is from Carl Hale Dixon, trailer tourist, whose temporary address is 1000 North Curzon Avenue, Los Angeles. His enthusiastic letter proves again, from a new angle, that Rio Grande cracked gasoline must be the most powerful, the fastest, the quickest starting gasoline on this market. Else, why should it be specified more than any other brand to power the hundreds of police cars, fire engines, and emergency equipment in the largest cities and counties of the West? When are you going to discover what a difference Rio Grande cracked makes in the performance of your car? And now it is our pleasure to present Sheriff Eugene Biscayous of Los Angeles County. Sheriff Biscayous.
Good evening, friends. It is a strange thing how the legend of buried treasure persists. Thousands of dollars have been spent by fortune-hunting expeditions to discover the hidden hoards of the pirates Captain Kidd and Jean Lafitte. Yet there has never been any conclusive indication that those worthy buccaneers ever buried any treasure. Closer to home, we often encounter a similar circumstance with more ghastly results. Some gossip will start an idle tale that this or that person has buried his money under his house or keeps it in a jar on the pantry shelf. The rumor becomes a fact to the busybodies who embroider it with every telling. The amount of hidden wealth increases with each recountal. It becomes solid gold instead of currency. Imagination weaves ridiculous fantasy around the private life of some poor recluse who asks nothing but to be left alone. Sooner or later, the story is told to an unscrupulous person, and we have another attack, or as is often the case, a murder on our hands. And in almost every instance, the criminal finds no gold. There's a very good reason for this. Even the most eccentric miser these days realizes that a bank is the safest place to keep money. You citizens could do a vastly important service and perhaps save a life if you scoff at any, refuse to believe, or repeat the next story about buried wealth that comes to your ears.
It is Sunday evening, May 18th, 1930. In a little ranch house in Mint Canyon, 70-year-old Albert Horton and his half-deaf nonagenarian brother, George, are reading the Sunday papers by the light of an oil lamp.
Well, George, according to the papers, Hoover says prosperity is just around the corner.
Eh?
Just around the corner.
Oh, he's been saying that for 6 months now. There ain't been no change. Price of alfalfa still going down, and the price of food still going up.
Yep, but don't know what it'll all come to.
Well, what this country needs is William Jennings Bryan. If he'd only won the election back in '96, we wouldn't be in this mess now.
No, George, know very well bimetallism wouldn't work. It just ain't good government.
Oh, that's the trouble with you, Albert. For a young feller, you're the most set in your ways I ever did see.
Well, for a feller that'll be 90 next year, you talk like one of these here radicals. Now, I never could understand. Wait a minute. What
is it now?
It sounds like the horses are out.
What in tarnation?
I'll go see. Where'd I put my pistol?
Pistol over there on the mantel.
Somebody's been fooling around that corral. I'm certainly putting for the lead. Look at that.
What's the matter out there, Albert? Who's there? Albert, what is it?
Take it easy, Grandpa.
My stars. Who are you?
Never mind who I am. Just get over there and sit down on that bed and you won't get hurt.
Oh, what's the matter? What's happened out there?
Just a little argument. Don't let it worry you none.
You got Albert's pistol there.
Yeah, and one of my own. And if you start any funny business, I'll empty them both into you.
Why, we used to string rascals like you up to the nearest tree when I was a young man.
Yeah, but times have changed, Pop.
Well, what are you going to do with me?
Nothing. I'm just keeping you quiet until my pals get through.
Well, what are they after?
You ought to know. They're going to relieve you of that gold you got hidden out here.
Gold? We haven't got any gold here.
Yeah? Well, maybe you've forgotten about it, but we know different. I wonder what's keeping those guys. You should have answered. Now, listen, Pop. I'm going out to see where those guys are, and don't you move out of this house, because I'll be covering the door.
Young whippersnapper, giving me orders. Wait till I get my shotgun. Show him I'm just as good a shot as I ever was. Tell you, get away with this. No, sorry. I can't get... What's this? Albert. Albert, speak to me. Albert, it's your brother George. Oh, speak to me, for God's sake.
L.A. Sheriff's Office. Hutchinson speaking.
This is James Catlaw speaking. There's been a murder up here.
Where?
Up at the Hortons Ranch, 15 miles up Mint Canyon from Saugus. Old George Horton just walked down to my place and says his brother's been shot.
Okay, tell him to keep his shirt on. We'll be right up.
Deputy Sheriff Hutchinson immediately phones Captain Bright, Chief of the Sheriff's Homicide Department, at his home, who instructs him to have the substation at Newhall confirm the murder report and then notify him. In less than 10 minutes, the answer comes in from Newhall affirming the first call, and Captain Bright starts in his own car for the Horton Ranch. Arriving there in record time, he attempts to interview the badly frightened George Horton, but finding that he can get no more than vague answers to his questions, he leaves the old man and continues his investigation by himself. And by the time Hutchinson arrives with camera equipment, he has found...
One brass .32 shell casing, 2 sets of footprints leading to and from the porch, tire tracks in the soft dirt of the road.
With these facts in his possession, Captain Bright supervises the taking of pictures, mentally notes the position of the body, then assigns deputies William Penpraise and Virgil Gray, who have arrived on the scene, to take over the investigation. They begin by questioning James Catlaw, who first reported the murder.
Well, it's just like I told the officers over the phone. Old Mr. Horton came down to the house a half scared out of his wits and said his brother'd been murdered. Then I called the sheriff's office and started back up the road toward the house with Mr. Horton. And the only people we saw was Mr. and Mrs. Heinrich coming down the road.
Yeah, my name's Heinrich. I live about 100 yards from Horton's place. I've farmed some of his land on a share basis. But we weren't home when the shooting occurred. We were down to Newhall to the movies.
Did Horton have any enemies?
Well, there was some bad blood between him and Dayton Furnival. He was the fellow that sold the ranch to the Hortons, and they was having some argument over the details of the transaction.
Anybody else around here that might be called enemies of the Hortons?
No, not so you could say no.
Did he have any close friends around here?
Well, there's George McCoy and his wife. They live up the canyon a piece.
Well, yes, Albert was having some trouble with Furnival, but I don't think Furnival bore any ill will.
Can you think of any reason, Mr. McCoy, why Mr. Horton should have been so brutally attacked?
Well, of course, there was plenty of folks around here that thought the Hortons had gold buried on their ranch.
What's that?
Yeah, you see, they come down here from Tulare County, where they had a big ranch, and, well, it was legend up in those parts that the Hortons buried a lot of money on the place. Of course, nobody would have known about it if it hadn't been for that Mexican.
What Mexican?
Mexican kid that worked for them up in Tulare and came down here with them. Oh, he told folks around here all about the gold.
What was that Mexican's name?
Tony Martinez, I think it was. Oh, he don't work for them any longer, though. He got a job at the Bulldog brake lining plant out in Watts.
What do you know about Dayton Furnival?
Well, he and his brothers-in-law, a couple of fellows by the name of Brothers, they traded ranches. They took the Hortons' place in Tulare County, and the Hortons took their place down here. Oh, it was kind of a mixed-up deal. I never could understand it.
Furnival still lives around here, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's still got a place here.
Oh, great. I'll go talk to Furnival, and you look at Horton's place. Look it over and see if there's any indication of hidden gold.
Okay, I'll meet you back there.
So you can see, Mr. Furnival, any light you can throw on this case will be of great help to us.
I'll be glad to be of any assistance I can.
First of all, what do you know about this buried gold legend about the Hortons?
I've heard the stories. And when my brothers-in-law took over the place up in Tulare County, they heard it up there. But I don't place much faith in it. I happen to know that the Hortons have over $200,000 safely deposited in various Los Angeles banks.
I understand there was bad blood between you and the Hortons.
Nonsense. If there was any bad blood, it was on Albert's part. He felt that we hadn't lived up to the terms of the agreement we made when we traded ranches. But I didn't dislike him. He was a nice old fella. I didn't have it in for him, if that's what you mean. Ask Walter Hewitt. He can tell you that.
Who's he?
Well, he's related to my marriage, and he's also a nephew of the Hortons.
When can I get in touch with him?
I imagine he'll be out here today. I phoned him when I heard what had happened, and he said he'd come out.
Well, when he gets here, I want to talk to him. Well, Gray, have you found any buried treasure?
Not much. I I found 2 canvas sacks full of $20 gold pieces and an old trunk. $280 in all. You could hardly call that treasure.
No sign of a search being made for it.
No. There hasn't been anything disturbed in the house. It's very puzzling.
This man Furnival seems to be on the level. He tells me the Horton brothers have a couple of $100,000 in the bank.
I don't get it at all. They bump off the old man and never even try to look for the money.
I beg your pardon, Sheriff. Here's Mr. Hewitt. You said you wanted to see him when he got here.
Oh, yes. I've been wanting to talk to you, Mr. Hewitt.
Well, I want to talk to you. Who did it? That's what I want to know. Who killed my uncle?
Well, that's what we all want to know, Mr. Hewitt. That's what we're here for. Have you got any ideas?
None whatsoever.
What about this feud with Mr. Furnival?
Oh, that was some argument about the roads on this place. Nothing serious.
Well, just what are the details of that deal?
Well, my uncles were getting old, and I wanted them to be near me in Los Angeles. So I arranged a deal whereby my uncles took this ranch in exchange for their ranch in Tulare County, plus a $25,000 mortgage on the place. My uncles had threatened to foreclose the mortgage on Furnival and his brothers-in-law because they were having a disagreement about the roads.
Sufficient motive for murder, Mr. Hewitt?
Ridiculous. The disagreement wasn't that serious.
The officers, working slowly and meticulously week after week, are unable to discover any evidence to strengthen the tenuous theory that the involved land deal might have been the reason for the murder. However, developments cause actual accusations to be made from another source when, after George Horton, weakened by the shock of his brother's death, follows him to eternity. Walter Hewitt and his sister are named the sole beneficiaries of the Hortons' fortune. Disgruntled heirs, cut off without a penny, actually charge a conspiracy to murder. But before this nasty mess has progressed to an embarrassing degree, a new twist enters the case when, on a day in early September, Deputy Sheriff Gray receives a telephone call.
Huh?
Let me speak to Gray.
This is him speaking.
Listen, Virgil. This is Kalthoff down in Long Beach.
Yeah?
Listen, I just fell across something that looks like a lead on that Mint Canyon murder.
Yeah, what is it? We certainly need a lead on that job. We've been working on it for 3 months, and we haven't gotten any further than the mudslinging of the heirs to the Horton estate.
Well, you come down here and talk to Mrs. Eva Stone at 2020 Atlantic Avenue. She's got a story that you'll be interested in.
Well, gentlemen, it isn't a very nice thing to discuss. It makes me very unhappy, but I think it's for the best.
I'm sure it is, Mrs. Stone, and now suppose you discuss it.
Very well. I suppose I'd better begin at the beginning.
That's the customary way.
Well, you see, I have 2 daughters, one 16 and the other 14. And you gentlemen can't know what a task it is for a widow woman to bring up 2 growing girls nowadays.
Undoubtedly.
But what have your daughters to do with that murder?
I'm coming to that. My oldest daughter, Ella, recently fell for a no-good oil driller by the name of Lloyd Dye. I tried to break up the thing, and I tried to reason with Ella. But you know how girls are nowadays. Or do you?
Yes, Mrs. Stone, I do.
Well, I looked up this young man, and I found that he had been sent to the Ione Reform School some time ago on some sort of a dirty charge. Well, I just don't let myself think about such things. But who knows with such a person whether my daughter might be next. Well, he wouldn't let her alone, so I decided to get the goods on him and get him out of town for good.
And did you?
Did I? Wait till you hear. I checked up on him and found that at the time he was making love to my daughter, he was parking on dark roads with young Mildred Root, who lives over on Balboa Street. I did a little detective work myself, and I found that he had confessed to Mildred that he had killed that old rancher up in Mint Canyon last May.
Are you sure about that?
Positive. You don't have to take my word for it. Go ask Mildred.
That's just what we're going to do.
Yes?
Miss Root,
Yes?
we'd like to talk to you for a few moments.
Well, what about?
We're from the sheriff's office.
Oh,
May we come in?
well, I don't know. My mother isn't here right now.
We
and-
want to talk to you, not your mother. And we've got to talk to you right away.
Oh, well, very well. I suppose you can come in.
Yeah, thank you. May I introduce myself? I am Deputy Penprice, and this is Deputy Gray.
How do you do? Won't you sit down?
Thank you.
Well, what is it you wanted to talk to me about?
Well, we'll come to the point, Miss Root. Do you know Lloyd Dye?
Well, no. I don't think... Well, that is...
We know that you do.
All right. Yes, I know him.
And he confessed to you that he killed that rancher up in Mint Canyon last May.
No, I don't know anything about
Oh, come now, Miss Root. Please, the truth.
that. Oh, I don't want to get in trouble. I'm a good girl. I don't want to get in a jam.
You won't get in any jam, Miss Root, but you've got to help us.
Yes, tell us about it, Miss Root.
Well, he came down here on May 19th.
That'd be the day after the murder, Pen.
Yes, go ahead, Miss Root.
Well, there isn't anything much to tell. He said he was shot, and he was afraid that he was going to die. And then he told me that he killed the old man and that he disposed of all the evidence and the police would never get him.
Why didn't you report this to the police, Miss Root?
Oh, well, I thought he was bluffing. I thought he was trying to impress me.
Where does Di live?
Well, do I have to tell you that?
You'll save us time if you do. We'll find out anyway.
Well, he lives in a hotel over on Pacific Avenue at number 2632.
Yes, gentlemen, what can I do for you?
We're looking for Lloyd Di. He live here?
Di? Yes, he's got a room here. Is he in now? No, he isn't.
When do you expect him?
Oh, he usually comes in around 5 o'clock.
What number's his room?
110.
Let's have the key.
Well, I can't do that.
We're from the sheriff's office, buddy. Hand over the key and don't tip him off when he comes in.
First thing to do is to see if we can find that gun.
Right. You look through that bureau and I'll see what's in this clothes closet.
Never mind, Gray. Here it is.
Oh, let's see.
Look, 32. I'll bet $1 this is the gun that killed Albert Horton.
What a break, boy.
Quiet. Somebody's coming down the hall.
Here's our boy.
All right, Di, up with your hands.
Say, what is this?
You're under arrest for murder.
For murder? You're crazy.
No, you're crazy. To think that you could get away with that job out in Mint Canyon last spring.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Stick out your arms.
Say, listen, you. I'll get you guys for false arrest.
Well, that's your privilege. If we made a mistake, for the time being, you'll be smart if you'll just quietly answer our questions.
What was the idea of killing that old rancher?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, who was in that deal with you?
You own a car, Di?
I used to.
What happened to it?
The finance company.
What finance company?
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out through the Motor Vehicle Bureau.
Oh, go ahead and find out, but I don't know what company.
Want to tell us the truth, Di?
I am telling you the truth.
All right, my friend. Have it your way. It's all the same to us whether you talk or not. You're going to jail anyway.
While the ballistics expert checks the .32 caliber gun found in Di's room, Penn Praise tracks down the car Di formerly owned, finds it, compares its tires with the photograph of the tire prints at the scene of the crime, returns to headquarters.
Well, Gray, the tire on Di's car checked with our pictures.
Good.
3 of them are still on the wheels. The 4th is on the spare.
And the gun we found in his room is the same one that shot Albert Horton. Furthermore, I had the doctor examine him. He's got a scar from a bullet wound in the abdomen. I questioned him about it, and he claims he was shot by some dame's husband down in Long Beach as he was crawling out the bedroom window.
Modest lad, isn't he?
Yeah, he'll talk about anything but the Horton mess. Absolutely denies it.
But he thinks he's big stuff for the women, eh?
I should say he does.
Then he's done a lot of boasting to them.
I don't follow you.
He shot off his face to Mildred Root. He's told her more than she'll admit.
So, if we can't make him talk, we'll make her talk. Is that it?
Exactly. Come on. Now, listen, Miss Root, you've got to help us.
Oh, why can't you let me alone? You've got him in jail. What else do you want?
We want to know everything he told you.
It's bad enough that I had him put in jail. What will he think of me?
We told you we'd keep you out of this. He doesn't even suspect that you put the finger on
We're
it.
protecting you. Why can't you play ball with us?
Oh, all right. What else do you want?
Who was with him out at the Horton Ranch?
Well, he told me that he went out there with Gordon Gauss and some Mexican fellow.
Gordon Gauss. How do you spell that? G-A-U-S-S?
Well, I guess so.
What was the Mexican's name?
I don't know.
Sure you don't know?
I'm telling you the truth. I don't know his name.
All right, now, don't get excited, Miss Root. Just go ahead with your story.
Well, that's about all I know. Lloyd told me that they went out there because they'd heard that the Hortons kept a lot of gold hidden out there.
Where's this Gauss live?
I don't know.
Does he drive a car?
Well, yes, I think so.
What kind?
Well, last I heard, he had a yellow Ford.
Calling all cars, attention all cars, attention all Los Angeles County Sheriff's cars, all Long Beach cars, be on the lookout for a yellow Ford Roadster, license number 7 Victor 348, 7 Victor 348. Arrest the occupant of this car and notify Long Beach Sheriff's substation. That's all.
Pull over, buddy.
What's the matter? I ain't done nothing.
What's your hurry? You look like you're going on a trip, all that baggage back there.
Well, yeah, I'm going down to the Imperial Valley.
You were going to the Imperial Valley.
What's the charge? I was only driving 25 and I stopped back there for that light.
I don't know anything, buddy. I got orders to pick you up. That's all I know. For further information, you'll have to ask the sheriff's office.
I don't know what you're talking about, I tell you. I didn't have nothing to do with no murder. Well, I've never even been to Mint Canyon.
No use, Gauss. We knew you were there. You drove up to Horton's ranch with Lloyd Dye and a Mexican fellow in Dye's Pontiac sedan. One of you shot and killed Horton. Probably it was Dye. The other, probably you, held up the other Horton brother, the old man, for several minutes. Now let's have this straight.
I tell you, I'm innocent.
Where were you the night of May 18th?
Well, how should I know?
No, think now. It was a Sunday night.
Well, if it was a Sunday night, I was in bed by 10 o'clock.
How come you're so sure about that, huh?
Well, because I had to be up at 6 in the morning to get to work.
Where do you work?
Out at the Bulldog Brake Lining Plant in Watts.
Who was that Mexican that was with you that night?
I don't know no Mexican. I've never known no Mexican.
Hey, wait a minute, Gray. I know who that Mexican is now.
Who?
Tony Martinez, the boy who used to work for the Hortons.
How do you know?
You remember? When we were questioning the relatives of Horton, they said that Martinez had quit to go to work for the Bulldog Brake Lining Plant in Watts. Sure, that's the bird.
How about it, Gauss? Was the Mexican Tony Martinez?
I never knew no Mexican.
Inquiry at the Bulldog Brake Lining Plant reveals the fact that Martinez left his job the day after Dye's arrest. The Border Patrol is notified, but fails to produce the missing Martinez. The two deputies center their questioning on Gauss, the weaker of their two prisoners. Day follows day of grueling questioning, and then, finally...
All right, I'll come clean. I don't see what you got on me anyway. I didn't shoot the old man. You can't pin murder on me. We went up there all right, all three of us. Dye, Martinez, and me.
And what happened?
Well, let me tell this my own way, and it'll be the truth, every bit of it.
Okay, start talking.
I met Martinez a year ago over at the Bulldog plant. As soon as we got to know each other, he told me about the ranch where he used to work and how the old man that owned it kept a flock of gold money hidden out there. He wanted me to help him rob them. I put him off for months. I've never been mixed up in no beefs, and I didn't like the idea. Finally, he persuaded me to go up there and look the place over. I did. And a little while later, I introduced Martinez to Dye, and Martinez suggested we cut Dye in on the deal. We told him about it, and he liked the idea. And that Sunday in May, I run into him in Long Beach, and he suggested we pull the job that night. I was scared, but he insisted, so we picked up Martinez over in Downey and drove out to the canyon. When we got there, it was late in the evening, and Martinez let the horses out so as the old men would come out of the house. We were going to hold him outside the house while Martinez went through the place to find the gold. We didn't plan no murder, but only one of them come out, and Dye jumped him while I run inside and held the other one up. I didn't hear nothing from outside, so I went out, and Dye and Martinez had scrambled. I had to hitchhike back to Long Beach. The whole thing was a mess, and I didn't have nothing to do with the shooting.
When this confession is typed out, will you sign it?
Yeah.
This confession has been given without any force or intimidation being used on you?
None that I know of.
Armed with Gauss's signed confession, the officers interview Dye, who, after carefully reading the document, comes clean.
We didn't mean to bump off nobody. I was wrestling with the old guy on the porch, and he pulled out his gat and shot me in the middle. Well, I started to run. He fired a second shot at me, so I turned around and I let him have it.
It is the opinion of this court that insufficient evidence of guilt has been presented in your case, Gordon Gauss, and therefore you are acquitted of the charge of murder. However, there is no question of a doubt that you, Lloyd Dye, are indeed guilty of second-degree murder, and the court hereby sentences you to serve a term of from 7 years to life in the state penitentiary.
But Dye's attorney appeals his case to the Supreme Court, which grants him a new trial. And the result of that trial is one of the strangest ironies in California legal history. The day at last arrives when the judge delivers his verdict.
In the opinion of this court, there can be no question of the guilt of the defendant Lloyd Dye of the crime of murder. In this case, the useless, brutal murder of an old man. This court cannot see the justification of leniency shown in the defendant's previous trial and cannot be swayed in the interests of the defendant in consideration of his voluntary confession. In the opinion of this court, only one verdict is possible, and this is guilty of murder in the first degree. And the court hereby sentences the defendant to Folsom Penitentiary for the rest of his natural life.
Had Dye been satisfied with the first court's verdict, he would have been freed under the parole system in a few years. But as it is, he must live and die in Folsom Penitentiary. Our men kept constantly after the missing member of the murder trio, Tony Martinez, and having located him in Mexico, tried to lure him across the line at Calexico. But he was too wily and escaped the Mexican police waiting there for him. However, it's only a matter of time until he, too, is brought to trial for his participation in the plot to rob the Horton brothers.
Thank you, Sheriff Fitzdews.
Remember when you were a youngster how you wanted to be a policeman? Or perhaps you wanted to be a detective and solve crimes? Rio Grande has made it possible for thousands of boys and girls to achieve this ambition. These youngsters belong to Rio Grande's junior police department. All wear a metal police badge. Nearly all have handcuffs, microscopes, fingerprint outfits, or some of the other 14 articles in Rio Grande's junior detective outfit. And they got these valuable gifts through the generosity of motorists like yourself who use Rio Grande cracked gasoline. You can outfit your own children or some neighborhood youngster with a 14-piece detective outfit at absolutely no cost to yourself. Just drive into any Rio Grande cracked gasoline station and ask. Get a free copy of the Calling All Cars News and read all about it. You've got to buy some motor oil this week, and if you seriously want the best oil for your car, you'll ask your Rio Grande dealer about Sinclair motor oils. He'll tell you how the special Sinclair de-waxing and de-jellying process ensures that you get an absolutely pure oil free from all waste, guaranteed against breaking down under engine strain. Rio Grande dealers recommend Sinclair motor oil according to your own car manufacturer's specification to all users of Rio Grande cracked gasoline. Your engine feels so much peppier with cracked gasoline that you can't resist speeding up. Cracked gasoline starts your engine so quickly that ordinary oils often fail to lubricate those first few seconds. Rio Grande dealers guarantee Sinclair motor oils to give never-failing lubrication in any emergency. This is your narrator, Frederick Lindsley, bidding you good night for the Rio Grande Oil Company.
For you, Bill. Sounds like the sergeant. Oh, thanks. Hello? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'll get up there right away.
Crime on a night like this?
Looks like murder. See you later.
Patrolman Bill White arrives at the scene of the crime a few moments after the ambulance has removed Harold Ziegler. He is met by Officer Harry Glaze.
Sergeant sent me over, Glaze.
Good. This is a tough one.
Let's have it.
Someone beat up Harold Ziegler.
You mean Ed Thurston's delivery boy?
Yeah.
Poor kid. I knew him well. Hurt bad?
Ed beaten in badly. They don't expect him to live.
Oh, what a dirty shame. Got any leads?
Nothing that's worth anything. Come along, I'll show you all there is. There's his bicycle over there. And here's the weapon.
Small end of an axe handle.
Yeah.
Hey, wait a minute. Throw your flash over here.
Huh?
Uh-huh.
What is it?
Jelly beans scattered all over the place. Harold loved them. Well, what else?
Apparently he was dragged down here into this ravine. This is where they found the body.
Now, wait a minute. Throw your flash around here. Nice footprints.
Probably belong to the ambulance driver.
One of them must belong to the attacker. Has homicide been notified?
Yes. They're on their way out.
Well, when they get here, see they don't disturb those footprints. I've got a hunch I can find a fellow whose shoes fit some of those prints. And if I get him, I want to be able to make a comparison.
You mean you've got this case solved already?
No, not yet. But I've got a strong suspicion, and I don't want those big flat feet from headquarters ruining these prints.
But the homicide boys are assigned to the case.
I know, but this happened on my beat. And I know the ins and outs of this neighborhood better than the headquarters boys. And I knew Harold Ziegler. I want to crack this case my way. I may need your help. How about it?
I'm with you, Bill.
Okay. Guard those footprints. West.
West.
Well, I'll be back shortly.
Running into a friend outside the store, Mr. Thurston enlists him in the hunt for the missing messenger. Quietly, they walk several blocks through the drizzling rain until...
Ow! Oh!
What's the matter?
Oh, consarn these bloomin' kids that leave their bicycles on the sidewalk. I'd like to catch that young imp. I'd wring his neck.
Wait a minute, wait. This is Harold's bicycle.
What?
And he's the last kid in the world who'd leave his precious wheel out in the street in the rain. There's something mighty funny about all this.
Say, look across the sidewalk there.
What is it?
Wait a minute. I'll see what it is. Why, it's a club. A wooden club.
Great Scott, there's blood on it. Something's happened to Harold.
Listen, Ed. You look down that way, and I'll go this way. See if we can find anything else.
All right, call out for him.
Here.
Harold!
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 Where are you, boy?
Harold!
Harold!
Here's his flashlight.
What?
Down here in this ravine.
Well, he must be around here somewhere.
Oh, wait until I get this thing turned on. There. Oh, look.
Oh.
He's still breathing. Hurry across the street to that house and call an ambulance. I'll do what I can for him until it gets here.
Well, Bill, it doesn't look like there's much business for a cop tonight.
No, raining too hard for the second story man, I guess.
What did they think about you hanging around this pot-bellied stove up here at Lincoln Heights?
It's okay with the sergeant. Thanks to you, I've got a police substation right here in your hardware store.
And I got police protection. Well, it's fair enough. Someone wants a pound of nails, I bet. Hello? Yeah. Just a minute.
In his new flashlight as Mrs. Thurston goes to answer the phone.
Isn't it a dandy, Mr. Thurston?
It sure is, Harold.
My dad bought it for me.
Ought to have waited until Christmas, oughtn't he, Harold?
Well, you see, my birthday comes on Christmas Day, so Dad sort of figured I ought to have this as a birthday present ahead of time.
Well, that's mighty thoughtful of him. You're liable to lose out with only one set of presents for both days.
Yeah, and then Bill White, the motor cop's been telling me that I ought to have a flashlight when I make deliveries at night.
He's right, Harold. It isn't safe to ride a bicycle around at night the way these fools run their automobiles nowadays. 30 miles an hour down Pasadena Avenue. Wonder they don't break their necks.
Oh, Ed.
Yeah?
Party up on Avenue 42 wants some citrate of magnesia. They said to send along change for $20. They want it in a hurry.
All right, I'll get the magnesia. You get the change for Harold.
Gee, that's swell. Now I can use my new light.
Well, you be careful with this money now, Harold.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'd send Robert, only he's home for supper.
Don't you worry about me, ma'am. I can take care of it just as well as Robert can, even if I am 2 years younger than him.
Well, we'll see. Here's $19.50. The citrate'll be $half. Take their $20 and give them this money and the citrate and come right back.
Gee, Mrs. Thurston, I know how to make change.
All right, Harold, here's the citrate. You better get started.
Yes, sir.
And don't forget to use that new light of yours.
Don't worry, I won't.
I wonder what's keeping Harold, Ed. He's been gone over an hour now.
I don't know. He ought to have been back in 15 minutes.
Do you think he might have been run over by an automobile?
Less chance of that than ever before. He had that new flashlight tonight.
But it's such an ugly night, raining and all.
I'm going up that way and look for him. What is that address?
727 Avenue 42.
East of the same gasoline the police cars use. They have discovered that Rio Grande Cracked lives up to its guarantee of police car performance in your pleasure car. And now it is our pleasure once more to present Chief James E. Davis of the Los Angeles Police Department. Chief Davis.
Good evening, friends, and boys at the police camp at Valyermo. The policeman is a public servant. When he takes his oath of office, he promises to enforce the laws which the people make. The ideal police force does just this, enforces the law, keeps the peace, sees that the machinery of society functions smoothly and with least friction. The ideal police force does not meddle in politics, does not concern itself with the social opinions of the public, does not interfere in any way with the affairs of the public, so long as the public keeps its peace. It is my constant effort and ambition to attain this ideal. The case you are about to hear tonight deals with an officer who might be called an ideal officer. Using intelligence, his own God-given initiative, he solved a brutal crime and brought the criminal to justice. His reward, of which you will hear later, is typical of the recognition any man under my command may expect for showing the same qualities.
It is a few days before Christmas in 1913. In Thurston's drugstore on Pasadena Avenue in Los Angeles, young Harold Ziegler is showing Mr. Thurston. Calling all cars, a copyrighted program created by the Rio Grande Oil Company.
Los Angeles Police calling all cars, attention all cars, broadcast 142. Cover the district around Pasadena Avenue and Avenue 42 and pick up any suspicious person. That's all. Rosenquist.
Are you confused by all this talk about gasolines, all claiming superiority? Then listen to this frank letter from a stranger in our midst. He writes,
As a newcomer from the East, I've been frankly bewildered by the many conflicting claims advertised for the leading brands of gasoline in the West. When I heard Rio Grande's broadcast saying more police, fire, and emergency cars are powered by Rio Grande Cracked wherever it is sold than any other brand, I decided that it was the first really convincing statement I'd heard about any gasoline. I know you couldn't make this statement unless it were absolutely true. And it's obvious that police and emergency cars depend more upon gasoline than pleasure cars. So, I figured if these big buyers, to whom gasoline is all important, prefer Rio Grande Cracked above all others, it's the logical gasoline for me, too. I'm convinced that I'm now using the best gasoline money can buy.
Signed, Mr. Matt M. Hammond, 764 South Normandy, Los Angeles. This same reasoning induces thousands of motorists every month to drive into a Rio Grande station and ask for cracked.